Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the RuneQuest rules by Chaosium Incorporated. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and rune magics are on the way. As this is our Glorantha, we will remind listeners that it may vary from the one you already know and love. And now, on to the show. Thank you for joining us again on an episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am not your keeper, your handler, or your storyteller tonight because we are going to play RuneQuest. And to do so, I'm going to hand off to a friend of the show and a Patreon backer. Stefan, tell us what we're up to.
Hi folks, I'm Stefan, known as RQ Stefan across the interwebs, and we're going to be inserting a group of fairly neophyte adventurers into the world of Glorantha, more specifically the southern region of Dragon Pass, to see what these highly traveled and exceedingly worldly characters actually get up to on a day-to-day basis. But of course, I can't do this on my own. It's all with the wonderful players at this table. So take it away, Heather.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather, otherwise known as Valley Girl on certain interwebs. I am playing Diana Zor. She is a noble woman of the cult of Amalda and has a very interesting history, as I'm sure we will all discover. And I'm very excited because this is my first time ever playing RuneQuest. So I am very excited to see this new system and this new world.
Fantastic. And to Heather's right.
This is Jake. I'm playing Ventar Riverborn, and I am a hunter and belongs to the cult of Odalia. I'm really excited about playing RuneQuest.
Last but most certainly not least, myself, Mike. I'm going to be playing Aaron Brook, warrior by occupation and lover of Orlanth for life.
With a group like that, what could possibly go wrong? We will turn the page on the tome, as it were, and see what the sketch artist is starting to prepare. And what they have is a perfectly normal spring afternoon. So we're in the Gloranthan calendar sea season, which is the first season of the year. And we find the group doing a little bit of clan work to, as it were, earn their daily bread and keep. They're out in the hills on the southeastern part of the Naimi Vale, tending and herding a group of 9 cattle maybe, and just enjoying a perfectly ordinary day in the countryside. So the question then turns to the group that are currently gathered, sitting up probably on top of the slight rise overlooking the grassy plains where there's a few small lakes, and we have the cows partaking of a quiet drink. But what is the group doing as they're in their 5th hour of a day's cattle herding?
I don't imagine Aaron probably stays in one place a whole lot. He probably has a lot of frenetic energy, and he's probably one of those types of fellows. The two of you, of course, having encountered him several times and spent time with him, he's sort of just always on the move, maybe even at some points to his own detriment, but he moves around a lot. And so he's probably passing, down through some of these hills or going by some of these trees. He probably likes to climb to the top of hills a lot. He was likely instructed to do so often by his mother to get rid of some of this energy of a sort. So yeah, I can imagine that's probably what he's up to.
So where might we find Ventar?
Ventar is probably near the cattle, keeping an eye out for predators and raiders. trying to keep close to the eye on them, keep them around, check for tracks, that kind of thing.
That makes absolute sense. And Raiders is very much a cultural thing, especially in this particular area, since the Sethnoring clan switched tribes, or was forcibly switched tribe-wise. It's become quite a target for, well, let's call it friendly cattle raids from some of the neighboring clans, both from within and without the tribe, as it's possible in one breath to claim that you're either part of the Kolimar as you were or part of the Lokame as you now are, depending on what suits the individual raider's needs for justification. And then, of course, we have our noble lady. Where do we find her? In her resplendent, of course, in her full bronze metal armor, burnished to a sheen. It's burnished probably more to hide the fact that, of course, it's been, in the last year, reworked for the 4th time to fit yet another wearer. And since the last 3 wearers of the family armor were all various males, or male-ish, there's a little bit of extra work to hide, as it were.
I believe, if we've been out here for 5-ish hours or so, we must keep our strength up. And so on top of keeping watch over the flocks and fields, as she would, she keeps one eye on those and the other eye to make sure that her fellow compatriots, as well as herself, keep their strength up. So I'm sure she would be preparing some kind of basic sustenance for everyone while blessing the bounty and the fortunes that they have at this time, so that hopefully they will continue.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, taking care of not only the herd, but the herders as well. So you're fairly sort of well spread out throughout the range of the cattle. When I would like everybody to attempt a listen roll.
Alrighty.
This is, of course, in complete contrast to the BRP trope of the first roll in any Call of Cthulhu game being a spot hidden.
Yep. My listen is a 30. I have 15, so I have passed.
Mm-hmm.
I have a listen of 35, and that is 35 on the dot.
Nice.
I have a listen of 45, and I rolled a 47, so I do miss it.
Okay. So, for Arian and Danis, you want to be sure to tick those skill rolls, just to remember that you succeeded. For Arian, I think it's probably a little bit of almost a whisper on the wind as you hear something moving around the underbrush from further up along the hill. For Danis, it's more like there's just a slight disturbance in the susurration that you feel up from the earth, from the movement of water across down by the campfire.
Well, I will immediately stop whatever I am working and preparing and start scanning intently around and to see if I can find or view the source of wherever those vibrations are coming from.
Makes sense. And I imagine Arian is not too dissimilar.
No, he probably does something a little out of scope, which is he pauses and tries to focus because something is disturbing the air in a way he was not prepared for it to disturb it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means there's a message for him.
Indeed.
In his way of thinking.
So the net result is that all three of you have an opportunity to make a scan roll. But Arian and Dianis are at plus 20%.
Okay. I have a scan of 30 and I rolled a 30.
So that is a success. How about our other two?
So I have normally have a scan of 35. I obviously get the plus 20% onto that. So it would be 55. And I rolled a 29.
Very good. So that's a regular success. And meanwhile, Benta, who's just far enough away from the action not to have heard the initial...
I have a scan of 45 and I rolled a 10.
Ooh,
nice.
Okay.
Ooh.
That's good. Unfortunately, the way the success levels work out, a special or an impale, it would be a 9 on a 45. So you rolled as good a normal success you could get without actually getting any additional pieces for it.
Yes, there's none of that pesky luck around to spend.
Indeed. However, depending on situations, it's certainly been known, and I'm one of the proponents, for GMs to allow retroactive use of passions and runic inspirations, particularly if there's a good story reason for the role.
Don't really know if I have anything that would apply to this kind of...
For this one, I think we can let the 10 stand as is.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to get much benefit from making it really well, because what you do end up seeing, coming up through the undergrowth, up on the far northwestern edge of the ridge, sort of coming up on both sides of that ridge, are a total of 9 creatures that your characters recognize, even if the players probably don't. But they are a staple of Genitalia and Glorantha. You can think of these as overgrown New York City rats, so call them about 4 foot in length. Now take and move the jaw back to the front shoulders. Open the jaw 60 degrees and fill it with rows of sharp teeth, and then make the whole thing clad in armadillo-like scales.
Yeah, so it's like a overgrown armadillo with a gator head.
Yeah. These are known as rubble runners, most frequently found in ruins and other areas where they can scavenge freely. Now, where you are is but a mile or two away from the Pegasus Plateau, which is a tall mesa that sticks up into the countryside. So this is probably a group that have scavenged or migrated out of there. They're not incredibly common here out in the pasture lands, but they do occur. And they're certainly more than happy to try to make a meal of, say, a number of cows. This will be an excuse to dive straight into the meat of the RuneQuest system, and particularly the combat system. So the way this roughly works is that we have a round of actions, approximately 12 seconds long, divided up into 12 strike ranks. Now, in a round, you can, assuming nothing else is constraining you, you can move freely up to 8 hexes, bearing in mind that a change of facing will cost you a hex worth of movement. Each hex, just for scale, is about 3 meters or 10 feet. So you can, you would start to move in order of dex, essentially. It's on your dex strike rank. You can also do a magical effect, be it rune or spirit. You can have an attack action, and you can have a defensive action. Under certain circumstances, you can swap that defensive action for a separate attack action, such as if you were actually wielding 2 weapons, one in each hand, and you had multiple opponents around you. You could choose to attack opponent A with right hand and opponent B with the left hand and not worry too much about defending yourself. Now, the constraining factor around all of that is the strike rank concept. So everything you do has a strike rank cost. Apart from the case of rune magic, which is special, all rune magic occurs immediately on strike rank 1. Your actions start on your dex strike rank. So the higher your dex, the lower your dex strike rank, the faster you get going in the round. If you're doing a physical action, such as an attack, then your size strike rank plays in, as does the strike rank of whatever you're using. The easiest way to think of this is in a normal face-to-face with an opponent. If you, on the main part of the sheet, scroll down to the weapon section, you'll see listed the various attack forms or weapon forms that your characters have available. And you'll see the 3 numbers listed. You'll see your dex strike rank just above them. For each weapon, there will be an entry for a weapon strike rank or WSR. So the smaller the weapon, the higher the weapon strike rank, because the lower reach you have with it.
Certainly.
And then you have the total strike rank. So if I recall, with your main weapon, you're typically going on strike rank 6 or 7.
Yeah, that looks about right.
So, and just for reference, these rubble runners are typically going on strike rank 9 because they're not very dexterous. In the scheme of things, compared to a human, they're not that big, and the reach of a set of teeth isn't that great.
Sure.
So in any given round, you'll typically be going before them. Now, having said that, of course, you also have the option of casting spells. Say, for instance, Arion, being quite close in, wishes to cast Blade Sharp on his battle axe before engaging with one or more of the rubble runners that are, frankly, inside of 10 meters from him. He would have to pay a certain strike rank cost to cast that spell that would add to the total strike rank for him for that round. So you'd probably be going on strike rank 8 rather than strike rank 6. And basically, if you run out of strike ranks in the round, then you've reached the limit of the actions that you can do in that round, and you kind of have to start again the next round.
Interesting. So we're all sort of against the 12 clock.
Indeed. So just to make life a little bit easier for everybody, I'm going to start with the statements of intent for the rubble runners, just to give a sense of what's going on. And they're basically going to split into 2 groups, one of which is going to try to run down the hill as fast as they can to get around Arion and eventually make for the cows, but they won't reach the cows this round. 3 of them will break off and basically form a semicircle around Arion to engage with him, if they get it right. And I think what I'm going to do is go from furthest to closest as far as statements of intent goes, just because I think we will cover the interesting points that way. So looking at Ventar, who looks up at the ridge and suddenly sees the sniffing heads of these rubble runners appear over the tip of the grass. Now hears their chittering screech of feed. What does he wish to do?
I believe Ventar is going to ready, and he will be firing his bow at the lead rubble runners. Yes, that is what I'm intending to do.
That makes perfect sense, and I'm going to assume that to avoid starting off with the firing into melee rules, that you're concentrating on the rubble runners making a break for the cows?
Yes, I will rely on my companion to take care of himself.
It's that kind of world.
So, Dianis, what is your reaction to all of this?
How spread out right now is the herd?
Basically, from where you are, about 30 meters in a rough line. So you have one cow pretty much down by you by the fire, and then there's a line of them going up along the lake, the pond shore, as it were.
Just to confirm, how much distance can I cover?
You can cover up to 24 meters, so up to 8 hexes. So if the rubble runners weren't moving, you could just get to the lead rubble runner at full combat sprint. Now, since they're going to be moving, it's actually, you're going to meet them part way if you did that.
Okay. What I was thinking of probably have been set up beforehand, but I will go a different direction.
Well, if there's something that you would have naturally just sort of have ready or have prepared, or, you know, that means that they've just come up across the drop pits that we dug earlier, or, you know, I'm happy to roll with it.
Okay. My thought would have been seeing her motivations more as a protector and provider, and as a herd would be obviously a very big necessity for any kind of surviving, for survival. She probably would have set up, at least in a general area where the herd would have been kind of corralled, some area of warding. So she would have put in her stakes, probably her thick sticks in a general area. So her thought would have been to at least provide some level of protection around the herd. Would that still be a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the question there is, since that is a stackable rune spell, is how many of your 3 rune points you would have wished to spend on that, bearing in mind that rune points is probably something that you would get back about once per season or so. Each rune point, for reference, will give you a 3x3 hex area. Or, well, it's 100 square meters. That could be a 10x1 line of hexes. So you could arguably set it up around the drinking area completely if you wanted to for just a single point.
So it probably would have been 1 point. We'll just call it. It'll be 1 point for that. And it would have encompassed the largest possible area around where the herd would have been kept. So that way we could protect as many of the herd animals as possible. Admittedly, there have to be some level of acceptable losses should anything befall, but at least it would have given a level of protection in thanks to the gods for that.
Well, I am just for ease of reference going to say that there is a warding line running up, essentially the diagonal from where you are up to the almost furthest cows. It looks like there's 4 cattle maybe, the 10 that have just wandered outside it a little bit, but it's there for the majority at least.
Okay.
So with that, and that was sort of pre-prepared, I think. So with that in mind, what's the immediate reaction?
The immediate reaction is I would like to grab my javelin and position myself so that I am between the herd and the rubble runner, where I can have an idea of where they're coming from, and ready myself for as soon as I can get a clear shot on that to make my throw.
Perfect. The one question I have for you with that is, what is your dexterity strike rank?
My DSR is 3, and then it has readied weapon 3/11.
Yeah. So that means that you would start moving on strike rank 3, because that's when your dex strike. By that point, you've gotten your legs sorted out under you, as it were. The javelin itself is just a once per melee round weapon, so it will cost you your dex strike rank again to perform the throw maneuver with the javelin. So that means that we've used up 6 out of the available 12. So you could then move anything up to 6 hexes in the meanwhile before you throw. I think you'll still have enough time next round, even if you move completely, that they won't quite get to you and get a bite in before you get your shield out. So that's sort of the balance there, but we'll see how that move works out. And I guess I should ask for both Ventar and Dianis, are there any spirit magic spells, or even, rune spells, that you would wish to cast?
I don't think so at the moment.
Yeah, not at this time.
Yeah, okay, cool. So then we get into the thick of it. Arian, who has given the... Arian is perfectly placed to split the group of rubble runners. Of course, also means that it's quite likely that they're just going to more or less surround him as they move forwards. So the question is how Arian deals with that tactical predicament.
I think as a trained warrior, I think he, in some ways, likely enjoys this situation. And so he'll simply shrug the shield off from his shoulder and let the haft of the battle axe find his hand and say to them, if you're here for the flock, you will reap the whirlwind first.
Yes, he is. There are some people that would claim that Orlanthi tend to be windbags. That's probably a little bit...
just lunars.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm assuming that you're then just going to step forward and essentially into the charge and try to beat into it. Okay. Any magic from your side?
I mean, I have Blade Sharp. I have Blade Sharp too. I suppose I can cast that as I walk in.
It's one of the things that you can do as you're moving, so it's almost a free action in that sense.
Yeah, I might as well.
Indeed. Okay. So then I will ask what Arian's and Vendar's dex strike ranks are.
My dex strike rank is 2.
Ventar's dex strike rank is 1.
Okay. There is going to be quite the volley of arrows from Ventar. Since missile fire occurs on your dex strike rank, in this case, since there's no actual rune magic being cast, Ventar gets the first salvo off on strike rank 1. So if you would care to roll your self-bow attack.
Okay. That would be 17 under 75,
Oh, very nice.
Ooh,
which I don't believe is an impale. I don't think it's an impale. I think.
15 is in impale. Yes,
Right,
you're
yeah.
quite right. So not quite.
And that will be 5 points of damage.
If you look on the section just above combat notes, you have your dodge number, but also a drop down for hit location. If you would please move that drop down to 4-legged and then roll the d20 to see where you hit with that 5. Ooh, nice. Solid 4-quarter hit. 5 points. Unfortunately, of course, these have got quite hefty scale armor.
Right.
That your arrow sticks in. Clearly does at least some damage. It's not the incapacitating hit that you would have expected on that of an unarmored creature, but every little helps. So strike rank 2, we have Arion moving forwards going into contact.
We'll just call it trouble.
We have Dianis setting off. How many points of Blade Sharp is Arion casting, Mike?
So that's a great question. So to me, I think 2 points is probably enough.
2 points is probably enough, and probably as much as you would have in a single spell. It is quite rare to find people with more than 2 points in a specific variable spell, even though there is no theoretical maximum in the rule set. Just culturally, that's sort of where since you have to be taught it. So the strike rank cost for a spirit magic spell is 1 strike rank less than the number of magic points you're putting into it. So since you're casting Blade Sharp 2, that means you're putting 2 points in, so it'll end up costing you 1 strike rank.
Okay.
So that means that, since it's something you can do whilst you're moving, it basically means that will end up casting on the next strike rank, so strike rank 3.
Yeah, and for me, it's going to give me 10 percentage points to hit, and it's going to deal 2 extra damage.
Indeed. As you move forward, you come a little bit into the flank of the group, such that you basically end up splitting yourself between 2 rubble runners, with one trying to get through behind, but it's blocked by those 2. And then the flanks of the rubble runners kind of stream around you to either side, heading down for the cows. But of course, that just means that they'll run into Dianis.
Don't mess with Mama.
Who will have moved 5 by the time that she intercepts. And in the meanwhile, there's also more arrow fire to come. One question for Ventar. Are you going to keep your position back in the line of the cows, or do you want to start moving forwards as you're shooting?
I believe I'll move forward a little bit just to stay ahead of the cows.
Okay. So strike rank 3 is the next thing to happen, which is Arion casting his Blade Sharp. So go ahead and make your spirit magic roll, also known as power times 5.
27 under 55.
Oh, easily. So that means you get to deduct 2 magic points from your available magic points. Now, on the character sheet, there's your magic point numbers followed by a slash and then probably a 0 or something. The way I run it is that I keep track of the number of points I've spent. Other people prefer to have the number of points left after the slash. Whatever works.
Sure.
So you do, in fact, get that in place. As you begin to move and you realize that you're going to be facing multiple opponents, Arion, it becomes a question of, given that you have an axe and a shield out, and also, of course, the possibility of a dodge on top of that, how do you wish to distribute those between the two opponents that seems likely to be attacking you? So you could, for instance, attack one, dodge the one you're attacking, and parry the second one, or any combination, including dodging multiple times at additional penalties as you go.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it probably pretty basic. I know that some have already gotten past me closer towards the herd. I know that Dianus is down there. I also know that Ventar is basically to my right, not too terribly far, but to my right. And so I think what I want to do is I want to keep. I'm going to want to place my attack essentially directly in the square, the hex that's to the left of me. And I want to be prepared to parry what comes to the front of me.
Okay.
Because I think that if I can keep the ones who are to my left coming at me, then I can work with Ventar to the stuff in the middle eventually. So we'll clean up the edges and then come back to center.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. With that in mind, the next thing that will happen is that Ventar will get his second shot on strike rank 6.
I keep my dice in my hands.
Nah.
All right, that's 47 under 75.
Okay. So you get to roll your d6 plus 1 plus... Oh yeah, d6 plus 1. I don't think you have a strength bonus, if I recall.
No, I don't think so. That'll be 6 to... I rolled 12, and that means...
Ooh, 12 on a four-legged. That is a hindquarters hit. So, you use 6 damage, you say?
Yes.
So, okay, so there's 1 push, 2, 3. So, yeah, you manage to get an arrow that sticks in a bit behind the scale, just over the rear legs on the one you hit earlier, but doesn't seem to do anything particularly spectacular, unfortunately. So that's strike rank 6. Normally there would be a whole... The rest of you would also be going on 6, but you've moved and cast spells. So you're going a bit later this round. And I think next up is Arian's axe slice on 8.
Okay. Happy to deal with the rabble from rubble. Oh, that's a 2.
Ooh.
So with the plus 10%, an axe, my axe is with the augmented axe skill, I think it's 45. That's a 2 under a 45.
That's a 245. That is a critical hit. That is going to be a special attack, which in your case, because you're using an axe, is a slash, which means that you get to roll your d8 plus 2 weapon damage twice. So 2d8 plus 4.
Yep. And then do I also... my strength bonus as well? Is it doubled or is it just added on the end?
No, your strength bonus just gets added on at the end together with the blade sharp damage. So it's then plus 2 plus, I guess, a d4.
Okay, so that is 21.
21 points. To a location.
Yeah, let me find out which location.
Ooh, hindquarters hit for 24 points. Now, with it being a critical, this now also ignores armor.
Right.
So, 24 points. We have a total of 6 It's a rubble runner, 4 hit points in the hindquarters. So that's 6 times the available hit points in that location. Arion almost takes on the form of his axe moves almost with the power of a whirlwind as it glimmers through the air with the blade sharp upon it, and it just slices clean through, breaking the back of this rubble runner, splitting it in twain. So we have our first casualty of the day. So that was on 8. Next up, what is Diana's normal weapon strike rank on with her broadsword?
The SR for the broadsword is 7.
Okay, 7. So you would normally go on 7. You've moved 4, so you'll go on 11. The good news is the rubble runner that you're facing up against, that you've sort of intercepted, has moved 4 hex or 5 hexes, which means that it's actually moved more than the amount of strike ranks it had available to then also be able to get an attack in. So it's not going to get an attack in on you this round.
Yay. I live another round.
Meanwhile, so the next thing that will happen is Ventar's third arrow on 11.
That is a 36 under 75, so that hits.
Ooh, nice. So, yet again, damage and location, please.
4 points. I rolled a location of 5.
Okay. That arrow bounces off one of the hind legs. Doesn't actually manage to penetrate the leg armor.
Okay, now I know.
So then we have Dionysus' broadsword swing on 11 as well.
Okay. Now I had readied my javelin. So does that...
That's right. You were throwing your javelin,
Yes,
which you would have thrown earlier on in the movement. So in reality, we'll just back you back to about strike rank 4 or 5-ish. But since your target is not involved in the other 2 combats, that's okay.
Then we don't have to go back too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my DSR for the javelin is a 3. So she probably would have let fly pretty early on when the target was still a little ways away.
Makes perfect sense. So go ahead and see if there actually is a live target by the time you get there. So roll your javelin attack.
Unfortunately, it does live because I do miss. I rolled a 79 over 60. So it manages to get by.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you probably let go a little bit too early whilst it was still just about at max range, which is only 20 meters or so for a javelin, because they are quite big and heavy. I mean, they will do a d10 of damage if they hit, and it just falls short. But you still manage to run through, and as you're doing so, you're probably shrugging at least your shield into place to be able to meet essentially saying that it's a charge is overstating things dramatically, but lumbering of this thing. And finally, on strike rank 12, we have the one remaining rubble runner trying to gnaw its way through Arion.
Oh, wonderful.
So, go ahead, Arion, and roll your parry, if you would.
Certainly. All right. I have a 14 under my 55.
A 14 under your 55, which is not a special. The fact that it misses doesn't have any particular effect. Just managed to quite happily bash the side of its head away as it goes in to try to snap at you. So that is the end of the first round. There is a splinter group that has sort of broken through and might be able to get down to the start of the cow line by the end of round 2, but probably won't have time to actually attack at that point. And it's the lead of that group that Ventar is shooting at the moment.
Okay.
Well, if they do get to the line of warding, they will at least start to take damage that way.
Indeed, we'll see how well they take to being electrocuted, as it were. So, with that in mind, let's start off. Let's go in the opposite order, since we're now in actual melee between us. Arion, you've got one that you were parrying. You've got a second one that's moving in to take the place of the 2 halves lying on the ground.
No. Lunch. Lunch.
Okay.
What does roasted rubble runner taste like?
I don't know, but listen.
Does it taste like chicken?
Listen, we're not here to leave waste.
That's right.
Oh, no. We will, at least one will be burned as sacrifice and thanks for our survival and the survival of the cows.
Oh, absolutely. One would definitely hope so. So yes, what's Arion's plan?
I think it seems fitting, since he's had a fair, reasonable chance at blocking the one that came in on him last time. Mm-hmm. This other one that's moved in, I think he's going to keep his hands where they are, and he's going to sort of whip the axe around to try to cut at this newcomer, because he feels confident enough that he can continue to parry off the one that he has already done so.
That makes perfect sense. Without having a look to see, but I'm assuming therefore no extra spell casting or uses of inspiration or impassioning.
Not just yet. I have an idea in his mind that is forming about how I might use something like that in the future, but it would probably be to chase down the ones that have gotten past him already. Because if there's one thing he likes, and that's being quick about his movements.
Indeed.
And the air rune at 90 is staring me in the face.
It's certainly there in all of its shifting glory, as it were. In complete and utter contrast to the shifting, swishing axe blades up by Arion, we move to the stoic, solid defense and, well, I don't know, stabbing or slashing, really, of Dianis.
Pointy end goes in the other guy. That's
Right.
all you have to worry about. Okay, so shield is now slung appropriately over the arm, and the broadsword is out.
Indeed. I'm just going to assume that you're intending to introduce both of Stead to the one opponent that's facing you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I will introduce, I will bring a little bit of light to their darkened soul, preferably literally.
For a brief light of pain before it all goes dark again. Yes, swallowed up by Mother Earth. Any particular use of passions or wounds to aid you in this respect that you would wish?
Nothing officially, just a deep-seated hatred for those who would those of any kind that would try to remove myself from my life or my friends or my herd.
Perfect. Then on to Ventar.
I will continue to fire at the lead rebel rouser.
Okay. Ventar has an interesting tactical situation, of course, at the moment, being about half a sprint away from the lead rubble runner. So you could, if you wanted to, move and probably just about intersperse yourself between the 3 rubble runners who are, as it were, loose, and the cattle.
Okay. Can I cast a rune?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to drop my bow, sprint, and I'm going to pull my shield and battle axe out, and I'm going to cast Bear Strength on myself.
Ooh. You are not messing around, sir.
Nope.
You clearly believe in the right to bear arms.
Haha.
Or arm bears.
That's right.
No, that makes perfect sense and isn't at all scary. Fortunately, your two companions are looking the other way.
I'm glad he's on our side.
So, with that in mind, since Bear Strength is a rune spell, that will go off first. So, the mechanic for rune spells is that you pick a rune that is associated with the spell.
Right. Beast.
It seems reasonable. I certainly can't argue that one. And you get to roll against your beast rune.
All right. I got a 24 under 75.
24 under 75, that's certainly a success. The spell works. You deduct 1 or 2 rune points, I forget.
Two.
So you deduct your 2 rune points, and the spell takes effect. Unless it says otherwise, it will be in effect for the next 15 minutes. You're running to intercept at that point.
Yes.
Okay. So then the question is for Ventar, what is your normal strike rank for your battle axe?
6.
Now, it will cost you 5 strike ranks to ready it. I don't see a reason why you can't do that whilst moving, and also you can double stack that with readying the shield because you've got 2 arms.
Right.
You'll basically be ready to strike by 11. The good news is that the 2 rubble runners that will be in contact with you at that point have also moved, so they won't be attacking until 12.
Excellent.
That then means that we go around to strike rank 6, which I believe is Arion's axe.
Indeed it is. Let's have some more fun with the axe. Shall we?
Indeed. Let's see if we can repeat ourselves.
Probably not a repeat. That's certainly a hit. 22.
Oh, yep.
Under his axe skill. So, well, not as wondrous as last time. He does have a fair strength bonus.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget the 2 points from the blade sharp as well.
Certainly. So that's 14.
Ooh, 14. Well, it's going to hurt wherever it hits.
Let us find out where. I'll just roll a d20. That's a 19.
Oh, yeah. I think there's quite clear that somewhere in Arion's journeys, he's definitely taken a dislike to rubble runners because you cleave its head off at the neck.
Wow. I'm going to say 2.
The neck is hanging on by just like a little bit of sinew, but to all intents and purposes, it is an ex-rubble runner. So moving on to strike rank 7 and Dianis.
Wow, they leave me anything to...
Well, you still got the one that you're off, sort of faced off with a little bit to the side.
Well, that is a 22 under 35 for 4 points of damage.
Okay, so you get that wonderful sensation of seeing your broadsword slide down the scales off the top of the rubble runner, but not actually stick in. Next up is 9 with the 2 remaining rubble runners. So going back to Arion, if you would care to roll your shield parry, sir.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's not great. So that is a 65 over his 45.
65 over a 45. Okay. It's rolled a 30 under a 30. So it's going to try to stick its teeth into your right leg. However, it's only doing 2 points of damage, which I believe you have 2 points of armor.
Let's see here. Right leg armor. I have 3 points of
3 points of armor, so it fails to penetrate the armor.
It's chewing on me.
Yep. And likewise with Dianis, if you would care to roll a shield parry.
Yeah. Let's do shield. That is a 30 under 70.
That is a 30 under 70. And we roll a 13 under 30, so we both succeed. It's doing 3 points of damage. That is insufficient to overcome the 12 points of your medium shield, which means that it takes no damage.
I get to go 11, right?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, you have your... Yes, my bad. Your axe. So, yes, you have a choice of 2 targets. One on your left flank and one on your right flank.
I'll do the one on the right, seeing as that's my less protected side.
Makes sense.
Now my bear strength made my strength 24.
Mm-hmm. So for just to make life easy, the character sheet doesn't have a "Am I under bear strength?" tick box, but just modify your actual strength up to 24, and it'll...
Yeah, I already took care of that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what it changed my skill rolls to. It's a very good spell. That is 22 under 60.
22 under 60. Okay, so that's a regular hit. The option for these is to parry with their snout. With
Yes, that is 12 points of damage.
Ooh.
16.
12 to the 16. Okay, that is just what you would have needed. You slice into the front right, or the right foreleg of this rubble runner. Whilst you don't take it off, you do get that very satisfying crunch of breaking bone. Now, what happens is that you end up making it take twice the amount of hit points that it actually had. So it had 4 points of armor, it has 4 hit points in the leg, so it's taken twice the 4, which is enough, since you're using a slashing weapon, to functionally incapacitate it.
Excellent.
Nice.
So it's not quite dead, but it is not capable of really taking any actions. And in fact, should you, as a house rule, should you so wish to kill it, that's basically a just don't fumble the slash that you make for it next. So that's round 2.
That's 2 rounds of RuneQuest combat for us that we've gotten into the first part of this, which has been, I think, pretty interesting. We're at an interesting point in the season for the characters. We just have to fend off the rest of these bits of rabble, and maybe we'll have a really nice luncheon here. After this is all over.
A little rumble runner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we want to thank you, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter, for checking out us playing some RuneQuest, and we'll be back shortly with the second half.